I want you to picture a scenario. You open a shoe store, you've got great sneakers, fair prices, the works. But you need people in the door. So you hire a guy to stand on the street corner and hand out flyers.
The classic marketing strategy.
Right, but here's the problem. You're watching this guy work, and he's a disaster. He's handing flyers to toddlers. He's giving them to people who are already wearing the shoes you sell.
Right.
He's handing them to people walking their dogs who clearly have zero interest. But here's the kicker. You have to pay him for every single flyer he hands out.
That is just the definition of inefficiency.
It would drive you crazy, right? You're paying for the effort, not the result. And that really is the spray and pray problem in so much of advertising.
You pay to be seen, usually by all the wrong people.
Exactly. But imagine if you could go up to that guy and say, hey, new deal, I am not paying you a dime for handing out paper. I am only going to pay you when someone takes that flyer, walks into my store, and actually buys a pair of sneakers.
That changes the entire game. The risk completely shifts from you, the business owner, to the guy with the flyers.
And that shift is the entire premise of the company we're diving into today.
We are looking at Affle 3i Limited, and while they technically fall under ad tech, thinking of them as just an advertising agency is, it's missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah, calling them an ad agency feels like calling a Tesla a golf cart. This is a technology platform using deep learning to fundamentally rewrite the rules of ROI and the scale. It's just staggering. I was looking at the data. They touch over 3.4 billion connected devices globally.
That number 3.4 billion, it's hard to even wrap your head around. And it's not just phones. It's connected TVs, smartwatches, wearables. It gives them a data footprint that rivals the absolute giants of the tech world.
So our mission today is to figure out how this machine works. We've got a stack of financial reports from FY25 and FY26, stock analysis, breakdowns of their tech. We need to find out if this is the future of advertising or just a really clever way to burn cash.
And to do that, we have to start with the mechanism itself. Because Affle isn't selling ad space, they are selling an outcome.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics, or the secret sauce, as one of the reports calls it. I was reading through the industry background, and it is just alphabet soup. You've got CPI, CPM, CPCU. Can you break this down for us?
Sure. So the industry standard, the old way of doing things, is CPM, cost per mil.
Which means cost per thousand.
Exactly. Cost per thousand views. An advertiser pays just to have their ads splash onto a screen. It doesn't matter if you look at it, click it, or you're actively trying to close it because it's in your way.
That's my guy on the street corner handing flyers to toddlers.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Then the industry evolved a bit to CPI, or cost per install. You see this a lot in mobile gaming.
Which sounds more logical. If I built a game, I want downloads. That seems fair.
It seems fair, but think about your own phone. How many apps have you downloaded, opened once, realized it was garbage, and then deleted 5 minutes later?
Dozens, maybe hundreds over the years.
Yeah, exactly. For the advertiser, that is wasted spend. They paid for the install, but they got zero revenue from you. An install is not a customer.
And this is where Affle just flips the table with this CPCU model.
Right, CPCU. Costs per converted user. This is their moat. This is their entire thing. They don't want to be paid for the view. They don't even want to be paid for the install. They only charge the advertiser when the user performs a deep funnel engagement.
Deep funnel engagement. Okay, translate that for me. That sounds intense.
It just means a transaction, a purchase, a registration, something that has actual monetary value. If you're an e-commerce app selling shirts, Affle gets paid when the user buys the shirt. That's it.
Wait, hold on. Let me play devil's advocate here. That sounds great for the advertiser, the shoe store owner. It's totally risk-free.
Yeah.
But if I'm the app showing the ad, that sounds terrible. I'm giving up my screen space, and if the user doesn't buy anything, I get paid zero.
Why would anyone agree to that deal?
Yeah.
That is the billion-dollar question. And the answer is they wouldn't agree to it unless Affle could basically guarantee that the person seeing the ad is almost certainly going to buy the shoes.
So it all comes down to accuracy. If Affle guesses wrong, they eat the cost.
Exactly. They are effectively fronting the cost of the ad inventory. They buy the space, and they bet their own money that their algorithms are smart enough to find the one person who is ready to spend money right now.
That's a high-wire act. If their tech is even just mediocre, they go bankrupt.
Correct. If they just spray and pray, they die. And this brings us to the engine room, the consumer intelligence platform. They are processing interactions across 3.8 billion devices. That was the specific figure from the last year of data, to build this massive graph of user behavior.
But how does that actually work? I mean, deep learning is a great buzzword, but what is the machine actually doing?
It's all about probabilistic matching. They aren't just looking at what you search for, they're looking at patterns. They see a device ID. They know this device is active mostly in the evenings. They know it has 3 sports apps installed. They know it tends to click on food delivery ads when it's raining.
That is slightly creepy, but go on.
It's building a prediction model. It calculates what is the probability of this specific user on this specific device converting on this specific ad right now. If the probability is, say, 90%, they bid on the ad space. If it's 20%, they pass.
So they're effectively counting cards at the casino. They only bet when the deck gets hot.
That's a perfect analogy. And because they only bet when the odds are in their favor, they can afford to offer that CPCU model.
Yeah, it's weaponized efficiency. And looking at the source material, this efficiency dictates who they actually work with. They're not trying to sell ads for everyone. There's this acronym in the report, EFGH.
Right, EFGH.
Which sounds like they just got lazy with the alphabet, but it stands for the specific verticals they target.
It does. E-commerce, fintech, gaming government, and health tech.
So why those 4? Why not? I don't know, movie trailers or car insurance.
Think about the transaction loop. E-commerce, fintech, gaming. These are sectors where the transaction happens right there, on the device. You see the ad, you click, you buy the skin in the game, or you order the groceries. It's immediate.
Right, I'm not going to see an ad for a pickup truck on my phone and instantly buy it with Apple Pay.
Exactly. The loop is too long for CPCU, so they focus on these high-frequency digital transactions, and the data backs this up. I think it was 99.1% of their revenue comes from this consumer platform business.
There's another stat in there that I found really interesting about their stickiness. It's about who signs the checks.
You're looking at the direct versus the agency split.
Yeah. Usually in ad land, a brand hires a big agency. The agency hires a trading desk. The trading desk hires the tech platform. Everyone takes a cut. But Affle seems to be cutting out the middleman.
They are. The report shows that 75.8% of their revenue comes from direct customers. They are wired directly into the marketing teams of the apps themselves.
That's huge for defense, isn't it? If I'm a marketing director at some fintech startup and Affle is bringing me users who are actually depositing money, I'm not going to fire them.
You're not. It makes them very hard to displace. And financially, it helps their margins significantly. Every middleman you cut out, you keep more of that dollar.
Speaking of keeping dollars, let's talk financials. Because usually when we see high-growth tech companies, especially AI companies, we see them just burning cash. Growth at all costs. We'll figure out profit in 2030.
Affle is the complete opposite of that. They run what's called a capital-light business model.
Which means what, practically?
It means they don't own the heavy assets. They don't own warehouses like Amazon or server farms like Google. They're just the intelligence layer sitting in the middle.
So their costs don't balloon every time they add a new customer.
Precisely. And you see the result in the margins. In FY25, their EBITDA margins expanded to 21.3%, and they're telling investors they'll hit 24% by FY28. But the number that really stood out to me was the cash flow.
I saw that. Operating cash flow grew 62.4% year over year.
While revenue only grew 23%.
Okay, pause there. Explain that to me. How does cash flow grow almost 3 times faster than revenue? That sounds like financial magic.
It's not magic. It's operating leverage. Think about it. Once you've built the AI algorithm, how much does it cost to run it for one more client?
Basically 0. A little bit of electricity.
Right. The cost of goods sold is very low. So every incremental dollar of revenue they bring in has almost no cost attached to it. It just drops straight to the bottom line. As they get bigger, they get more profitable, not less.
That is the holy grail for a software company. And it's left them with a serious bank account. The source mentioned a war chest of over 1,300 crore in cash reserves.
Which is a massive strategic advantage right now. Capital is expensive. A lot of their competitors are struggling to raise money. Affle is just sitting on a pile of cash. They can acquire smaller companies, invest in R&D. They're in control.
There's one more financial nugget here that surprised me. In a world where everything feels like a race to the bottom on price, Affle is actually raising their prices.
Yes, the CPCU rate. The cost they charge per converted user is actually rising. It went from about 58 to a projected utilises 61.6.
That takes some confidence.
It implies pricing power. They are effectively telling advertisers, look, we aren't giving you cheap users. We are giving you high-quality users who actually spend money. If you want that, you pay a premium. And advertisers are paying it.
So they're profitable, they're cash-rich, and they have pricing power. Okay, let's look forward. They're huge in India and emerging markets. Where does the next wave of growth come from?
The sources point to 2 main vectors. First is geography. Currently, about 72% of the revenue is from India and other emerging markets, but they are making a really aggressive push into developed markets, specifically North America.
The big leagues.
Yeah.
But that's a tough nut to crack, isn't it?
It is, but the rewards are exponentially higher. The ad spend per user in the US is something like 10 times what it is in India. If they can make their CPCU model work there, the revenue potential is just massive.
And you can't sleep on the home turf either. The report mentions India's digital user base is projected to hit 902 million by FY25.
Almost 1 billion people online.
Right.
That is a lot of data to feed the algorithm.
But the second growth vector is where things get a little sci-fi. We need to talk about Affle AI and their work with Gen AI agents.
This was the part of the source material that felt like looking 5 years into the future. They aren't just using AI to target the ads anymore. They want to use AI to make the ads.
Explain that, because right now, creative is a bottleneck, right?
Mhm.
You need a designer, a copywriter.
Right, and maybe they make 2 versions of an ad, a blue one and a red one. Affle has filed 36 patents, with 14 already granted for generative AI agents. These agents can automatically generate thousands of creative variations instantly.
So the AI is creating the ad itself.
It creates the ad, the copy, the button color, the background, and not just randomly, it optimizes them in real time based on performance.
So it's like A/B testing on steroids.
It's A to Z testing. It generates 5,000 versions, sees which one is converting, kills the losers, and then generates new variations of the winner, all in seconds. The source mentions this could lead to 10x productivity growth.
That is wild. It's the ultimate feedback loop. The AI finds the user, the AI builds the ad for that user, and the AI measures if it worked.
It completes the circle. And for the CPCU model, this is crucial. If Affle is taking all the risk, they want control over all the variables. They don't want to lose money because an advertiser gave them a bad image.
Okay, we've painted a pretty rosy picture here. Massive scale, printing cash, robot ad makers.
But this is the deep dive, and I am naturally skeptical when things look this perfect. What breaks this machine?
Well, the first risk is the elephant in the room, or rather the 2 elephants, Google and Meta.
The duopoly. Affle is playing in a sandbox with giants. And while Affle has this niche with CPCU right now, there is nothing stopping big tech from deciding they want to crush that niche.
If Google wakes up tomorrow and says, we are now a pure CPCU platform, that's a very bad day for Affle.
It would create immense pressure. But the more immediate risk, I think, is the data problem. This entire engine runs on data, and the world is getting more private.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all saw that Ask App Not to Track pop up on our iPhones. I clicked Ask Not to Track on everything.
And that gave the entire industry a heart attack. If you can't track the user across different apps, how do you know they like sneakers?
Exactly. You're flying blind.
So Affle has had to pivot hard to what they call device-side intelligence, trying to make predictions based only on what happens on the device within the privacy rules. But it's a constant arms race. If regulators in India with the DPDP Act or Apple decide to lock down data even further, Affle's intelligence becomes less intelligent.
So the algorithm gets dumber, the conversions drop, and suddenly that CPCU model isn't so profitable anymore.
Correct. It's a systemic risk.
And what about the stock itself? It sounds expensive.
Very expensive. The sources note it trades at a high PE ratio, approximately 66 times earnings.
66 times. Wow.
Okay, it means the market is pricing in perfection. Investors are betting this growth will continue for years. If they stumble, if they have one bad quarter, the stock could get hammered because the expectations are so high.
There was also a note about vertical concentration, right? They're very reliant on those EFGH categories.
Yes. And we saw the danger of that. The source mentioned that a ban on real money gaming in India actually impacted their Q2 FY26 results.
Right. If the government just bans a chunk of your G category, that revenue evaporates.
Exactly. You're exposed to the regulatory risks of your own clients.
Okay, I want to pivot to something that really stuck out to me in the governance section. Let's talk about the people. The CEO, Anuj Khanna Soham, she's been running this for 20 years.
A lifetime in tech.
But there was one detail in the report about his ownership that made me do a double take.
Their 0.00001% figure.
Yes. It says his direct ownership is 0.000011%. That is bizarre. That's like owning the door handle of the office building. Why is that number so low for a founder?
It is definitely a yellow flag that makes you look closer. Now, it's possible he holds shares through trusts or other vehicles that don't show up as direct ownership, but on the surface, it does raise a question about incentive alignment.
Right. As an investor, you want the pilot to be on the plane with you.
And when you combine that with the other governance, the high board turnover, it gets interesting.
Average board tenure is just 1.1 years.
That's a revolving door. Why are directors leaving so quickly? Is there internal conflict? Is there a disagreement on strategy? It doesn't mean the company is failing, but low founder ownership plus high board turnover suggests the governance layer is, let's just call it active.
Active, very diplomatic.
That is
So let's bring this all together. We have the CPCU model, paying for results. We have a cash-rich balance sheet, AI agents on the horizon, but also these looming threats from Google and privacy laws. What's the big takeaway?
I think Affle 3i represents the maturation of the digital economy. We are moving away from the wild west of advertising where you just threw money at eyeballs and hoped for the best. We're moving toward a scientific, data-driven model where you pay for results. And Affle has successfully built a machine that does that.
They've turned advertising into a math problem, and they have the best calculator.
For now,
Yep.
yes. But they are operating in a high-stakes environment. They're expensive, they rely on data that regulators want to lock down, and they're competing with the biggest companies in human history. It's a high-performance machine, but it needs a perfect track to run on.
Not a set-it-and-forget-it situation.
Absolutely not.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with today. We talked about those Gen AI agents' computers making ads for other computers to analyze. In a world where AI can generate the perfect ad for you instantly and predict exactly when you'll buy, will we eventually reach a point where every ad is guaranteed to work?
That's the dream, isn't it?
But if that happens, does Affle own the patent on the future of advertising? Or does this pay-for-results model just become the standard feature that Google and Meta eventually give away for free, leaving Affle as just a footnote in history?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.